been handled better this time than ever before. But I think what happens at the WEF does reflect what happens in business anyway. What concerns me is that there is a lot of very good renewable technology available, but it is not yet well enough known or well enough used. I'm working with a company out of Germany called Unikos, and they've got massive storage capability for power that is generated by renewables, so that people can rely on stored renewable energy rather than have to pay high prices for diesel and other backup. And all this links together too with water and the whole question of water supply. And at last, I think minds are coming together. So let's hope Durban's going to be a great success.
But obviously Africa is faced with a bit of a catch-22. Over 700 million people on the continent are without electricity. So there's a real need and an urgency to provide for it. So the idea is for existing utilities to get on with it, and their model is coal-based energy for the real time and the real term. Long term, I think people are talking about renewables and the need for independent power producers to come forward and the need for greater investment. But it almost seems to be a question of which comes first, and that's the dilemma.
It's not either or, it has to be both. The existing forms of generation and the renewables, because the renewables are there for the taking. The sun is in the sky, the wind blows across this continent, there's biomass generation. But the difficulty is that people are thinking as either or, that we have to give up coal. Well, obviously from the carbon footprint point of view, coal will diminish over the years anyway, the supplies will diminish. But what we need to do is to use the other forms of renewable energy, the forms of renewable energy at the same time. So both have to be working side by side. I think Eskom here in South Africa is getting the message and really beginning to think hard about it. And we had some very good pre-conference sessions on energy. But there are a lot of other things to be done, of course, improving regional relationships and regional cross-border supplies of energy too.
I mean, obviously in South Africa it's almost a peculiar situation in the sense that South Africa has committed itself to reducing gas emissions by 34% by 2020, then 42%, and so Eskom has to start thinking more progressively. The legislation and the policy in place, the integrated resource plan, makes provision for renewable energies, but there are issues around the refit program and the incentives for independent power producers coming forward. There's just a sense that not enough is being done to incentivize those investments.
I think incentivizing the investments is one aspect. There has to be a change in mindset.
Baroness, let's talk about making independent power producers more active in the space. The government needs to come up with a better incentive program. There have been many concerns raised about the refit program for wind and solar energy projects.
Yes, I think there are problems. I think they're less here in South Africa than they are in some other parts of Africa. And goodness me, sun and wind are all over this continent. So we should be looking for IPPs, the independent power producers, to come up with these renewable alternatives rather than going back down the path of the old technology. It's beginning to happen. But I hope that the African Development Bank and the European Investment Bank are really going to get in behind funding independent power producers, which involves the private sector putting their house in order as well as helping the government to do so.